Said yes.
Valerie Pena Hernandez,
Yes.
Chancellor?
David Seymour,
Yes.
Jeff Holgren,
Yes.
Samantha McDavid,
Yes.
Sarah Moses,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Okay, next item is the superintendent's report presentations. Subject A is the opening of school year 2021 plan update.
Well, back on the first day of school, I shared with you some additional information, and now we have 7 days of similar information. We have a number of our cabinet members here to add our principals here to fill in a lot of the information about the opening 7 days. To quote somebody that you never hear another superintendent here in the future ever quote, but Woody Allen said 80% of life is showing up. And let me tell you, here's the numbers at the various buildings. Over the best information going is our attendance are trending upwards during the 7 days, which is exactly what we wanted to see. Let me go through building by building. We went Tyler, 89% to 94%. Huntley Middle School, 86 to 92. Alta, 93, 94, averaging 94 across the board. Wilmington, 85 to almost 93. Cortland, 92 to 93, and today was 96.2. Jefferson, 94 to 96. Again, trending up. York, 90 to 92, trending up. Clinton Middle School started at 83 up to 94%. Lincoln, 90 to 95.1%. And interestingly enough, at DeKalb High School, the percentages for full day averages about 83%, which sounds disappointing. I think it was up to 86. However, the partial day attendance is at 99%. So as Ricky said to Lucy a long time ago, that needs some explaining. So I have our principal here to do some explaining of how that 99% figure can. Before he started, though, one of the things that I told all the principals that normally we go after truancy middle of September towards October. We're going to start doing wellness checks with our SROs, our police support people, early, immediately. So when we can't contact our parents or we can't contact students, we're going to do some home visits across the board in fall. And that's going to be very aggressive about reaching out to those kids we can't engage. With that statement, tell us about how 83 and 99%, how that makes sense.
Okay, so can everyone hear me? All right, so at DeKalb High School over the last 7 days, the range of attendance has been 77% up to 89%. So we're averaging 83%. One variable for everyone to keep in mind is we're still in the middle of drop add week. So students that have signed up for classes that are no longer wanting to take that class or have been placed into a class, normally what you would see on the first day or two, those students would be lined up in the guidance counselor's office waiting for an appointment. What's happening now, that's happening in a virtual setting. So we have students that are still trying to get in to change their schedules. So we're still ironing out the detail. The drop add week will be ending shortly here. So schedules will be locked in. So we'll have a better sense for that number. My hope is that that number does go up. We did have, when we started, about 140 students that were not registered. We have been making phone calls and looking, that number is down just below 50 last time I checked. So we are making sure that the number of students that we're reporting, that's an accurate number. But yeah, the next step with this is with truancy, with students that are not showing up, is doing wellness checks, making sure that students are accessing, that they know that they are supposed to be checking in. And then the real challenge for this year is going to be, why are some students showing up for some classes and not for others? And really, the tricky part there is that's going to be navigated on a case-by-case basis. Any other questions? Yes. Yeah.
I have a question. We have kind of changed the involvement of our SROs on this as far as going out and the wellness checks or something that is a new sort of method for us is actually physically checking on the people that have not been checking in. I'm sorry, I haven't got my mic on. Oh, I do. So that's a new twist, is it not? I mean, we haven't done that previous.
Yeah, we know that social emotional needs of students have certainly changed and dramatically in the last couple months. Virtual learning is really taking a toll on our students, and it's starting to present itself in various avenues that's getting reported to us. We do want to make sure that our students feel safe, that they feel engaged, and that they're getting the support, because it's not just academic needs, it is also social and emotional needs as well.
Right. Well, Sarah, if I may, I applaud that. I think that's a move that is very much in keeping with the kind of methodology that we need for this this extraordinary circumstances that we have. And I think that it's really appropriate that our SROs are the ones that are doing that wellness check. So in all of those aspects, I think that you're doing the right thing, and I applaud it, both from the standpoint of our superintendents and you and your staff. So thank you very much.
I have a question. Couple. I know you're a data guy. Have you been looking at a couple of different, I guess, statistically speaking, the truancies in terms of, are they sort of historically truant issued kids? Are they in a typical demographic? Are we sort of looking at what represents that 83% versus the other? I guess it would be 17%.
Yeah, absolutely. So, to look at that kind of trend, the way we look at the high school, we use the MTSS language, red, yellow, and green. Green being the students that you're not worried about, red being the ones that are absolutely, that would be on truancy. So that is run through our student service teams. And what we will be doing is taking a look at the students that have historically, and we already have this data, presented themselves as cautionary at the yellow level, or as an emergency at the red level, and looking for supports for those kids, because the prediction is that it's going to be the same group. Well, we don't have at this point, because it's week 2, and keep in mind that while we are on a remote e-learning schedule, the way the schedule is built, there's still essentially A/B days. So we need to get a whole picture for how many students, when you're talking specifically about attendance, how many of those students are the same students that we had historically. My guess is going to be very similar. My concern, just kind of anecdotally, is I'm worried about, what we're going to do with the reds. The reds are really what's keeping me up at night, but I'm worried about a lot of our yellows kind of trending down toward the reds, because then that's going to become a difficult group to support, because the numbers will grow. So yeah, truancy is a significant part for that. We know where we've been. What we're doing right now at the high school is getting a sense of where we are currently, so we can put some supports in place. Keep in mind, we're operating in a very different ecosystem than we have in the past. Because in the past, it was difficult to get the kids to school. But at least when you got them to school, you could have conversations with them. We have a very talented group of social workers that could provide support for the students. How that's done virtually, that's a new land for us. But so is teaching English virtually. So, we're navigating those obstacles. But yes, that is something I'm going to be doing.
No, thank you. And one other question, which is, what I guess represents sort of, and what would be nice, I think, just as a board member, is as we're going through this, because obviously this is new for everybody, is to understand what attendance actually is in a remote environment. Because, I'd like to see, like, how many kids, like you said, are just red flagging it and blowing it off completely, and then how many are getting a class or two, as Griffith pointed to. I think that would be good information for us to see when you get it and get past this week, which I understand it's add drop week. I get that. But that would be really good information I would like to see, just to stay in touch with the pulse on how that's going.
Yeah, being proactive about that and having a good finger on the pulse. So yes, absolutely.
If I could just comment really quick, in case you need any support, and if I know the ROE does have a family success team that can provide some other services and goods that maybe the district doesn't have, such as food or transportation for different things. Just throwing it out there because I work there and it's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Just going back to what Jeff raised about SRO's role, they are going to be different. We obviously do not, with no in-person beginning the third quarter here. We are paying our full contract to the city, and doing so, we have full use of them. So we definitely will have the need with a press towards wellness checks, and which involves potential truancy. So that's, and so to me, it is different than what they've done before, clearly. I know we talked about the actual contract, and yes, we're in for the full payment of the contract, so we're going to get the services and use them.
And I think it's so totally appropriate, and I know that that our principals are very much involved in on that, and I think they work with the SROs very, very well. So I think it's a really appropriate role for them.
Couple other things. Any other questions for
Thank you.
Thank you.
just a couple other items before we get to our important people in the room here. Staff attendance has been outstanding. We have less than 5% of all employees are bringing their children to school. In addition, 93% of our staff is working within our district. About 7% are working remotely of our 1,000 employees. So that's the breakdown. With that, let's look at curriculum and instruction. Kim Lyle.
Can I say one thing appropriate to what you just said? Sarah, are you okay with that? I just want to give my personal thanks to all of the people, all the staff, all the teachers for making this extraordinary jump into this environment and the amount of cooperation that we had. Thank you so much.
Let's try both. Why not? I like the microphone.
Sorry, I didn't bring my glasses, so I'm like, I can't read these little things. I was going to say we are off and running, and when you were just talking a minute ago about the SROs, I feel like our APs also have a new role this year because obviously the students aren't in the building, so they're helping us a lot by making phone calls, checking in on kids, families, driving Chromebooks to their buildings, to the compartment buildings, helping kids log in outside on the curb, all kinds of things. So they have been, it's been really vital to have those pieces, especially in the elementary for the first time. It's been really helpful during this time too. Attendance is improving. We just talked about that. I was in several buildings in the last 2 days, and you go in there and it feels weird to not see children, but you go past a classroom, and I'm not going in there yet. I want to give teachers time, but you hear the teacher laughing and the kids laughing or responding, and it's just really neat to see that piece of it. Today, I got to sit behind a student that's coming to work with her mom, who is in our dual language, and I watched her participating today. Here's the second day of kindergarten with a screen, and she was interacting in Spanish when she speaks English, so it was really neat. A few things, our CNI team created a document along with instructional coach team and pushed out this weekend. Thank you to the ROE and some other places that pushed it out for us too, to help parents and students with the technology piece, how to sign on to the Chromebook and all different things. And we had it translated and the videos done in Arabic and Spanish as well. It was a lot of work, and I really appreciate everything they did because that's had good success. We got some emails today thanking us for that. Teachers and administrators, their problem solving, attendance is improving, but we're constantly coming up with other ideas of how to reach out to kids, how to include kids for longer periods of time. If mom is working, can they get on for 30 minutes a day? And see if we can increase that. So we'll continue to work on that. We'll continue to work on engagement. You approved last meeting Pear Deck, which is another way to present that's very interactive. So we have training on that at all the levels this week. So I think once teachers get up running that, that'll be another piece to increase engagement. So let me see, what else do I want to tell you? The other thing is, in about 3 weeks to 4 weeks, 3 weeks or so, we will look at our students that are not able to attend, as Mr. Horn was just saying. Why is that? What can we do for them? Maybe this is not the right model for them. Do we need to come up with another one to engage them? So that will definitely be something that we'll do. And then Wednesday night is our first district team that comes together every month, leadership team. And we'll start the conversation about phase 2. We have a meeting coming up where all the union leaders are attending with our cabinet level and some admin to start talking about that piece. We just needed to get school off the ground first. Are there any questions for me? I guess I need to say again, it is incredible what's happening the night before school started. I haven't, well, none of us have slept for weeks, but I was nervous. I was worried. And to see the attendance and the number of kids engaged, and my own child, I drove home to make sure I could see him. And I've been telling some funny stories, but, and he's a senior. And so to see him in there and engaged, and he's helping his teacher if there's a problem, they're helping him. So it's been a great 7 days.
May I ask a question? How is it going, Kim, or how does it work for families that, especially with younger children that are working during the day that maybe have to access the lessons later? Is that going well?
That's the part that we're problem solving now and seeing. And what we're finding is the people that we're contacting, at least in elementary and in middle school, we're contacting it. The reason they're not was a small little detail that we needed to work out, needed to get them a hotspot, or they completely just didn't understand how to use the technology, or it wasn't working. So we've been finding more of those that we've been flip-flopping the other direction, or supporting the babysitter. A principal went and met with the babysitter today to show her how to, get the kids on, and gave her some headphones because she's got 4 of our kids. So that's, I think, what we're going to have to look at in a couple of weeks to see, because right now the attention is if they can't get on, to go on to the Google Classroom piece. And what we're doing is more proactive. If that family has made contact, we are marking them present for the day. And as we see the work being completed, we'll keep it that way. And again, if it's not, then we'll have to make a contact and possibly mark them absent. But yeah, so that's our new bump in the road to work on. But so far, so good.
Thank you, Kim. Kyle Gerdes is going to report remotely. Kyle, turn off there you go.
All right. Thanks, everyone. So just, I want to start off with a couple of things that we've been working on, and then I want to get into a couple of things that have gone really well and some things we're continuing to work on. So last week, our Student Services Department shared a video with all of our families with children in our district that receive special education services. In addition to that, and I'm sorry, that video kind of covered a lot of different topics that we feel were really important to start this year off, given our status of e-learning. In addition to that, our special education teachers have started distributing surveys to families to get input related to the supports and accommodations that they feel would benefit their child during e-learning. It also gives them an opportunity to have a voice in how exactly some of these services are going to look while we're still providing services remotely. Last week, we provided training to all of our paraprofessionals. It was a collaborative effort between our department as well as CNI. And this training really gave our paraprofessionals some skills and some tools so that they can be actively engaged partners with our teachers, our students, and our families during e-learning. Another kind of thing that's really nice to see come to fruition is all of our buildings from the ELDC all the way up through the high school have started to provide tier 1 social and emotional lessons that a group worked tirelessly over the summer to develop, and to sort of see those lessons start to be implemented and to hear some of the positive feedback from staff about those lessons is really a success story. Today we started our first round of material distribution to the homes of students that are in our early childhood program, our developmental communications program, our SOUL program, and our 18 to 21 transition program. So we're running bus routes every 2 weeks. So that way that families have the materials that they need to better access the instruction and the related services that our teachers and our clinicians are working on with their students. We're really excited. Project Search, which is currently in a remote setting, working with their students but remotely, is starting to prepare for their first in-person internship, which will start on September 14th at Kishwaukee Hospital. So we're really excited to get that off the ground. And that group, it's been amazing the work that they've put in to continue on with Project Search, despite a lot of obstacles and things that, frankly, it would be really easy to say we can't make this work. And they've really have been impressive with putting their heads together and figured it out for our kids. So kudos to that group. Another little celebration going along with attendance. Our special education teachers are reporting a high level of engagement. They're anecdotally are reporting a higher level of engagement from their students compared to fourth quarter of last year. And some of the percentages that I've received from our buildings that have specialized programs really do mimic the high attendance rate that we're seeing across our district. Some of the things that we're continuing to work on, we've heard a lot of feedback from parents who are really concerned about their children's lack of in-person instruction and in-person therapy, particularly our students in our specialized programs. That's not unique to our district necessarily. I know across the country that students with disabilities have been impacted significantly by school closures and remote learning. But we're hearing it from our parents as well. So on that front, in the last week, we started to collaborate with our Northwestern Illinois Association, which is an organization that supports a lot of districts in our region. They provide us with occupational therapists and physical therapists. NIA is currently serving, like I said, a lot of districts in our area and further east. And they're running an in-person clinic model. So that way, even districts that are in e-learning, students are still able to come in and access those in-person therapies. So we're working with them right now to get that model implemented in our district. And our meetings so far have been really positive, really productive, and we're heading in the right direction with that. In addition to that, we continue to work with our special education teachers as well as our related service staff to move towards in-person instruction and expand our options for in-person therapies, especially for those students that find it really, really difficult to engage in meaningful therapy or instruction over the computer. And that's no fault of our teachers. That's no fault of our parents who are supporting those students. It just isn't the most effective way to reach some of our students. So we're continuing to work towards a return to some in-person therapy and instruction. In terms of a timeline, in our department, we have a goal, kind of a phase-in goal. So what we're looking at right now is to start with some in-person occupational and physical therapy, at least to be able to provide that option to our families that really need it. And we're hoping to be at that point by the end of this month. In terms of providing in-person instruction to our students in specialized programs, right now what we're doing is we're kind of targeting the beginning of second quarter to be able to phase into that. And we're, meeting with paraprofessionals, with our teachers, with our coordinators, with our administrators, with our labor groups. So it's really a collaborative process that I think moving forward, achieving that goal of starting off the second quarter with some form of in-person instruction is something we can achieve. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Kyle.
Kyle, this is Jeff. The question I have for you is this Northern Illinois, is this this group that is helping us or that you turn to for assistance in person? Am I hearing that correctly? What's the name of that group?
Yeah, it's Northwestern Illinois Association.
Okay.
It's a group that we've been collaborating with for years. I can't tell you how long back, but every year we access their services for occupational therapy, physical therapy, and a variety of other related services.
My question for you is, you were talking about they were going to bring students in for therapy. Where do they bring it into? Do they have facilities, or do they bring them into our facilities? What's the arrangement there?
Yeah, so their staff is housed within our buildings, just like our social workers or our counselors. The model of how it could look is really still to be determined. So there are other districts that they're having students come into their buildings. That's something that we're working through with that group to see how logistically we can pull that off. There's other creative ideas out there to maybe use one centralized location that we could potentially use to have families bring their students in there too. So we're still trying to answer that question, but as of right now, I think the focus is on using our school buildings.
And the last question that I have for you is, you were talking about second quarter. I don't know what second quarter is. Shame on me. But when is second quarter as far as you're shooting for on some of these issues?
That's right, Jeff. I didn't know when it was either. I had to look it up. This would be October 26th would be the first day of second quarter.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yep.
That's my question. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you very much, Kyle.
And
Hello, all again. I have my mic on. Can everyone hear me? Okay, great. So I have a couple updates to share myself, if I can get back to them. Okay. So with human resources, things are very cyclical and somewhat repetitive, just with a little twist in them all the time. But we are continuing to review FMLA and ADA accommodation requests that come in. Volume is not what it was prior to the start of school. And they for the most part are all very, they're I want to say they're accurate, but they are, they're valid for the concerns that our employees and our staff have, especially with what's going on in these days. So we continue to review those. In addition to that, I've been addressing a variety of performance issues with staff members throughout the district, just based on incidents that that have happened since in the week that school has started. We wanted to inform you that we have restricted hiring on some of our positions. We have a number of assistant positions vacant. We do have 3 special ed positions open, and then a couple other positions in the district. But while we are in remote learning, we have decreased our assistant hiring because students are not here in person, but we continue to recruit with that. To support that, we have pushed out a substitute recruitment campaign based upon conversations we had in previous board meetings to try to increase those numbers of subs. We do have some radio ads that have started this week. There's also a pop-up that comes up on, I believe, the Chronicle newspaper. If you log on using your mobile device or the website. And there's also an e-blast that's going out to chamber members. In addition to that, there will be a scrolling banner on a cable access channel that references that we are looking to hire subs and fill other positions. So some of those efforts, well, all of them, we'll see if they are productive for us. You know, our world is very different. Everybody doesn't read the newspaper, listen to regular radio stations, or even have or watch cable at home. We're hoping that that word will hit the right folks who will share with other people, and then in turn we'll have folks come to us and want to fill those sub vacancies or other positions that we have. And then finally, next week, not next week, tomorrow, myself and Ben Sloniker, the benefits coordinator, we are meeting with our insurance committee to talk about upcoming rate renewals that we will be bringing to you at the next board meeting on September 5th. Questions?
You end with bad news.
No one said it was bad. It might be a little bleak, but not bad.
Great, yeah.
Hey, Sarah,
Tammy Thompson, please.
excuse me, Griff. I'd like to jump in on something that she said. Pardon me. I did want to introduce it. I'm not sure where it needs to be introduced in a good way. I do feel strongly that this issue of substitutes is a huge issue for us. And I feel that, as a board member, I feel that difficult times call for difficult action. And I have a suggestion that we might consider, or all of us might consider as a board, the concept of having a COVID situation for substitutes where we offer a stipend, extra money for tracking substitutes during difficult periods of time. We are in other people, we do have shortages of substitutes. So, in my opinion, I would consider paper that particular option. And I'm not sure how much, but I feel like we need to have something that, and you brought it up that people don't add certain things on newspaper, but they do. And that particular option would talk very to the pool of substitutes that migrate from one area of school to another. So I feel, in my opinion, that's something, and I considered it when I'm sitting here at a meeting. It is considered by me that is something that I feel like might be the opportunity.
Before you answer, Teacher Jeff, you accidentally turned your mic off. I just wanted to repeat it so that people out there could hear. But you said you're proposing a potential stipend during the pandemic for substitutes to entice or encourage them to work in our district over another district, right?
We're competing.
Yes, okay. I just wanted to make sure.
We're competing with substitutes at this point, and there's a shortage of them. So, in my opinion, it's not something that we can do forever. Sorry. It's not something that we can do forever, but it might not forever and ever, but it's, sorry.
No.
It's not something that we would do forever and ever, but it is something that I feel like tough times call for tough circumstances, and we're competing. And at this point, sorry to say, we're not competing very well. We're not doing a very good job of competing because we're short.
Jeff, it's not unheard of. The large bus companies just last year were offering a $5,000 signing bonus, and they have to work a number of months before they get it. Just to sign to drive a bus. That's how difficult it is in this area in Toronto County. That's not unheard of.
No, I'm just throwing it out there, and I feel like it's something that I would give serious consideration to, because I feel like the substitutes are incredibly needed and good substitutes. And the point of what you did, all that extraordinary effort that you gave, keep one substitute that has some difficulties going on. I mean, it's important. I think that they're super important, and I think that they are a great backup for our teachers. They really are necessary, and good ones are hard to come by.
Okay, I'll do some investigating on that option.
Thank you, teacher. Tammy Carson.
Just a quick update from our department. We spent some time this week, met with athletic directors as well as starting some discussions with our music department in regards to the events that we're holding with athletics in regards to spectator and safety with our spectators, as well as with our plans in regards to potentially bringing some students in for some of the music classes that are not being held in person or haven't had the opportunity for rehearsals. I shouldn't say classes, but the a cappella groups and the different choir groups. So preliminary discussions right now to make sure we're approaching it in a safe, appropriate way. That'll be for middle school and the high school. And other than that, we're just responding to any requests from our staff as they're coming through for anything cleaning or disinfecting related throughout all of our buildings.
Thank you, Tammy. And the guy that hasn't done anything for 2 weeks, Ben Dale. I'm joking. When the busiest man on the planet.
Okay, well, since the start of the school year, we have rolled out 3,191 Chromebooks. That is part of our annual rotation cycle of third graders, fifth graders, and ninth graders, as well as all K through 2 students in the district. We have delivered all these devices to the buildings to complete the handouts. And I just want to be clear that this has been a team effort, not just from the technology department, but also from members of DCTA and facilities, which helped us make sure that we got the devices to the appropriate locations, helped us put cases on the devices and stickers. So it was a team effort to get everything put together and rolled out as quickly as possible to our families. At this time, all requests for hotspots have been fulfilled. Currently, 204 hotspots have been deployed to our families. We had a total of 296, and we have reached out to Verizon to get another allocation so we can continue to support our families as they find a need. From the dates of August 15th to August 30th, we received over 1,981 help desk tickets. Out of that count, we were able to close and complete 1,426 of those. Just for this single week, the first week of the school year, we received 1,214 of those tickets, and 797 of those were completed. So my team is tired, but we have managed to get through, and we're continuing to make progress every single week. And things are looking better week by week. So this is kind of how the typical start of the school year goes, other than the fact that we are also supporting our district families, as well as K through 2 students in a one-to-one environment, which is not necessarily new to all of them, but is new in a at-home situation in a one-to-one environment. So there's been a lot of support and ongoing support that is occurring to help support our families as well as our students.
The right time or not. So I have a question. In the past, I don't believe that our kindergarten through second graders had devices. Right?
They
Or in the
had
past.
like small classroom sets, but not one for every student.
So is it our intent moving forward? I guess I didn't, when we voted on this, I don't remember. Is it that we're going to eventually like rotate devices out when we get beyond this pandemic? Or is the plan to stick with K through second graders having them full time? I'm just curious if we've ever even talked about that.
Would you like to give your opinion?
I think if we told teachers and students that we no longer would have one-to-one devices after they get used to using them and learning from them, it wouldn't go well. So we are going to have to really think about how we're going to maintain those. Would they go home every night? That's a conversation we need to have. Most likely, they would stay in the classrooms and go home when needed, because that will also help save on that device,
Well,
not
and
being transported.
would also eliminate like basically all winter days off.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody can
Mhm.
just learn from
Snow
home.
days are no longer a thing.
Yeah, one of
Right.
those unforeseen consequences, I guess. But I was just kind of curious because Cindy, obviously, for the budgetary purposes, it's something that I think we probably all need to discuss at some point, Griffin, and make that decision together and then budget for it. That's why I brought it up. Just curious.
Because this, even just these couple weeks and getting ready, I've had teachers say to me in K2, I'm teaching differently. And I think I will continue to teach and use some of these applications I've never used before. So I know it's changing things all around, but yes, we will have to have a planning meeting on how could we maintain that if possible.
Sure.
And
Okay.
how to align that with our current rotation practices, because we do have it aligned fairly well, so that way, when an incoming third grader comes in, they have that same device for third and fourth grade, and then turn it back in, and it goes back into going to a third grader. And then when they're a fifth grader, then they have that device all the way through their middle school years, and then turn it in freshman orientation to get a device that they have all the way through high school. So we have that aligned very well and structured, and we know what that sort of looks like. To add the K through 2 devices, obviously that throws a little bit of an imbalance in there, but I think it's something we can figure out and work through. What's nice is that we've standardized on the type of device with the Chromebook and the Lenovo devices specifically.
Mhm.
So a lot of the things like the chargers and the charging pillars, some of the background things to support those devices, those are going to remain static for quite a while now moving forward.
Well, I was
So
also thinking
it's
about,
reduce costs.
yeah, and in your staff requirements as well. I mean, obviously, we just went through this recently, but if we have 3 more grade levels with devices, that could create a need for that as well, just from a planning perspective.
Yes,
Thank you.
thanks.
And may I, Sarah? So I shared something with Ben earlier, and I think it would be appropriate for him to share it with the board as far as FTEs on this new situation. In other words, the extraordinary amount of effort and time that his staff is putting in at this point. Very, very long hours, very hard work. And as far as continuing on, I mean, you can't bring in people temporarily to do this stuff. You shared with me that you can't bring in temporary work that know anything about the system. I mean, it takes you more time to get them up and running than it would be to do the jobs yourself. But it definitely, as far as long term, we don't know how long this is going to last. We have absolutely no idea how long this is going to last, and I think it would be appropriate for you to give us some sort of assessment as to how this is. I mean, all joking aside, how much stress this is putting on your people, and how much how you feel you're able to accommodate this new situation. And so, if you could give us or give me an assessment of that at some point or another, it would certainly be helpful to me.
Absolutely. I think the most common sort of metric we look at is the number of tickets we're receiving and how we're completing them. And obviously, at the rate in which we're completing them right now, that's not sustainable. But at the same time, typically these start to coast off here as people become more comfortable, the routines start to flow, stuff like that. So we're just sort of looking at the numbers and then making a data-driven decision based upon, do we need additional FTE? Do we need additional hourly employees potentially? I always like to bring in high school age students and get them sort of into the fold. A lot of my full-time employees started off as high school students.
Right.
I started off as a high school student. So it's kind of nice to sort of get them into the fold and get them into what the work environment's like and then watch them grow from there. So
Right.
we'll look into that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I certainly appreciate all the effort that you're putting into it. And I know the teachers, it makes because these are extraordinary circumstances. And I, as a teacher, I rely on my IT people to help me get through get through this maze. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ben. You know, 2 weeks ago, Ben had no gray hair.
I thought something different. It was longer at one point, I remember.
So in the business office, from a transportation perspective, we are still running some transportation. We've got some shuttles that are running for CTE students for KEC because they're doing some in-person learning. So we have those set up. There's also some private placement tuition special ed students that are going to Aurora and various places. So those routes are running as well. And like Kyle had mentioned, we started today the routes to give materials to EC and Soul and I think it's a transition program as well. Those, yeah, in DC, yes. So those are going to be running 3 times a week, I think every other week, I believe. Yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
each building once.
Yeah, each building, because it's various buildings that they're delivering to. So there's assistants on those buses that are delivering those materials and making contact with students when they're available. So, and also there's still some extracurriculars. We have, golf and tennis and a couple others. So there's some of those extracurriculars happening and the busing happening for those extracurriculars as well. And again, we continue to route kids, even though we're not technically in session or in person for most things, just so we can be ready when we're at that point. So. From a food service perspective, I do have good news. Just yesterday, we did receive the waiver to provide free meals to all students. So that's going to help tremendously to make things a little easier for our students and our families. So our food service staff is working on a little bit easier process to get these meals out to students more quickly and hopefully get our participation numbers up because they have been pretty low just because it was such a barrier. So hopefully we can get that rolling and get these meals out to students as soon as possible. And that is basically it from my perspective. Okay.
I have a question. Sorry. That seems to be my lot in life tonight. So as far as getting meals out to students,
Yep.
This summer and last spring, or I think it was mostly this summer, we did the business of having a location and people came to that location.
Mhm.
So is that basically the pattern that we're going to be working with this time around, is that we set up a location, people come to that location, or how are you going to manage it?
Well, right now we've got at 5 different schools, we're offering 5-day meal boxes that parents could go online and order. And then so basically they can come in, it's curbside pickup and we just put it right into their car and then they take it home and they've got 5 days worth of meals,
Okay.
breakfast and lunch with milks. And we have those at 5 different locations. We potentially could expand out now because we do have these waivers. So depending on the need, we may look into that as well and get first student involved too, like we did over the summer and what we did in the spring too.
And when you say waivers, what do you mean? What's the origination of those
The
waivers?
waivers are from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, who runs the program that we follow under. It's a federal program, so it's a very strict program. You have to follow very precise rules and requirements. One of them being you can only serve lunch in a cafeteria location, or you can only hit a point of service system. You have to have that student come through that line, and then you have to look at that meal and make sure all the components are there, and then they can record that student, and then you have to report all the meals to the state so you can get your reimbursement. And also congregate is a waiver, so you can basically serve meals, grab and go type options, rather than having like a hot meal. So those are things that are part of the program. And now they've waived those requirements so we can be more flexible in how we serve the meals.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Great news from the government on the food
We
service.
were incredibly happy to hear that, actually.
Okay, next on the agenda is old business and action items. The subject is student fees. Ms. Cindy Carpenter.
Let me say before Cindy gets started, we have 3 options for the board to look at. Cindy, being a very competent business manager, her job is to protect revenue and scrutinize every expenditure, and that's what she's doing. And that's really option one, and being presented to the board. But there are two other options to consider. Want to expand on that?
Yep. So at the last meeting, we talked about school fee waivers and gave you some information related to that. I included that in the agenda item again for this board. And we kind of talked about it of, what could be some options. So we did put 3 options together. The first option would be that the parent can complete a form and nobody would be denied. It would just be that they request a waiver of their fees. They would just have to list their student's name. And really, they're just acknowledging that, yes, we're having financial difficulty and we would need a waiver of fees for the 2021 school year. And that would waive all fees except for driver's ed. We would still charge the driver's ed fee. So that's an option we're looking at. And I also included in the agenda item a form that we've created that we could use for that purpose. So that's the first option we're looking at. The second option would be to cut the fees in half for all students. And then if they need a further waiver, they can go ahead and complete that same waiver that we have in option 1. And then option 3 is basically to waive fees for all students
For the semester.
across the board. Well, for the year, for the whole school year. Yes,
Okay.
for just this 2021 school year.
We have different, are we speaking just to the registration fees?
No, we're speaking to the registration fees, sports fees, as well as the course fees that are at the high school. The only fee that would be charged would be the driver's ed fee. Or if they lost their Chromebook, or if there's other those types of fees aren't your regular fees. Those are assessed if you're, damage a Chromebook or lose a charger or those types of things. Those would not be waived, but really we're looking at the regular registration fees, course fees, and any kind of extracurricular fees.
So I have a question right away, which would be, it appears that we're not canceling any sports. Students are still playing sports. We still are ourselves. Our bills haven't changed. We're still educating kids, and we're still running our buildings, even though they're not in them. We still have people in them teaching them. So, but my one question is about the class fees for like labs and things like that, where there's an additional fee. That one, I guess, seems more logical to me, but it wasn't split out. Is there a reason we didn't look at?
Well, in terms of what we collect in course fees is.
No, I'm just saying, isn't there an option we could just say, okay, well, obviously, if you're not coming into the school to do labs and using all the materials and dissecting frogs or whatever you're doing, I think that's a little bit of a no-brainer to me. I would say to waive those. But the other ones seem like we're still providing the services and incurring our costs on all those things. So maybe I'm not as in favor of those, but I didn't see that as an option.
Okay.
So, where are we at with our thoughts on this? I would say that I'm in favor of going ahead and waiving fees this year completely, considering all that our families are going through, all the extra expenses that are going into educating students from home, babysitters, study areas, desks, supplies that we wouldn't necessarily have parents be getting, just to bring some relief to families in that sense. So I would go for that option. Anybody else?
Just a procedure. If somebody wants to make a motion on one of the options, you vote it up or down, and then you can eliminate things that way.
Okay.
So somebody want to make an option? On the option?
Can I ask one question first, Cindy? For people that maybe have already paid registration when they registered, are we returning that then?
Well, there's a couple options. We could either, we'll waive the fees and it would be a credit on their account they can use in the future. Or if they want to request a refund, they can request a refund as well.
Yeah, I would agree with Sarah Moses. We have to consider.
Hey, Jeff. Sorry, Val was already talking. It's just hard to hear.
So, granted, what Sarah Moses just shared, it's important for us to consider that, we've been in the remote setting since March, right? And families have had different expenses. We're not just talking about, babysitters, which is extremely important, babysitters, nannies, tutors, You know, like Sarah mentioned, desk learning areas that are specific for our students, you know, from home, but also, you know, increasing the Wi-Fi usage or their own internet capacity so that multiple users can be on there. As we know, a lot of parents, you know, had to be working from home as well. So there's multiple things that we should be considerate of. And honestly, we wouldn't be the only district doing this. There's several, like I've mentioned, several districts that have done this. I am fully in support of option 3 of just waiving the fees. I understand that this is something that maybe the board isn't going, you know, it's not going to be a 7-0 vote, but I think it's important for us to consider everything and also consider that it's rough. It's rough for some families, and you know, I think the most appropriate thing is to you know, waive them across the board, and we start fresh next year, knowing that, you know, by then we'll have a better option for all kids to be able to be in our buildings, and families won't need to be paying out of pocket for you know, a whole lot of things.
Do I hear a motion?
Well, may I jump in for a second here? So my thought on this is we can get into the weeds here as far as what Jeremy was talking about. There are sports that we are engaging in. There are certain things that certain expenditures that we are having here. I do feel that our families have been expending money, as Val has said. I think that this has put a great deal of strain on them financially, I think, in some ways. But here's the other point. This board has given consideration and relief to the taxpayers here in this district, the people that have skin in this game, and all the people that have students in this system have been feeling a huge amount of pressure and a huge amount of how should I say it? Maybe not panic, but they really don't know which way to turn on this. I think that the school district giving this kind of relief shows a kind of a solidarity with them, and I feel that it's worth the expenditure. I feel that this is a book that is worth the candle in this case, and I try to watch money a great deal, and I'm very, very considerate about not spending money where we don't have to. But in this case, I feel that this shows the affinity that the board has for the everyday expenses of our parents. So I am for this.
So I move to propose option 3, waive student fees for all automatically, no application needed.
And I second it.
Any further discussion? Okay.
Option 3, right? Valerie Pena Hernandez,
Yes.
David Seymour,
Yes.
Jeff Holgren,
Yes.
Samantha McDavid,
Yes.
Sarah Moses,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Jeremy Olson.
Sure.
And I just want to mention, it'll just take us some time in the system to unravel all of this. So, so I'm just saying this for the benefit of parents. If they do come in and if they still see something on their Skyward account, we'll communicate to them how long it'll take so they can see those credits and get this taken care of for them.
Okay. Thank you, Cindy.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Next up is Director of Strategic Planning and Communications, Deetra Salas.
So per the discussion at the last board meeting, we are seeking approval to move forward with the advertising and recruitment of candidates for this position, with the final part of the interview process being with the newly selected superintendent.
Okay. The recommended action is that it's recommended that the Board of Education approve the 1.0 FTE position of the Director of Strategic Planning and Communications with the final recommendation by the incoming superintendent. Okay, is there a motion? Second. Roll call.
David Seymour. Jeff Hogland.
Yes.
Samantha McDavid.
Yes.
Sarah Moses.
Yes.
Victoria Newport.
Yes.
Jeremy Wilson.
Yes.
Valerie Hernandez.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, teacher.
Thank you.
Okay, next we will adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Jeff Hogland.
Yes.
Samantha McDavid.
Yes.
Sarah Moses.
Yes.
Victoria Newport.
Yes.
Jeremy Wilson. Valerie Hernandez.
Yes.
See you all in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
David Seymour.
Oh. I'm sorry, Dave.